Hello everyone, welcome to Brilliant Botany. I'm Chaitana. So today I'm in front of you with another new chapter called as Plant Kingdom. So which is a third chapter in the first PU. Yes? So chapter 3, that is Plant Kingdom. Yes. So this Plant Kingdom chapter in your board examination you are going to get for about 5 marks. Okay, and in your NEET examination you are going to get about 4 questions. That means totally you are going to get 16 marks for NEET examination. Clear? In the previous chapter, that is in biological classification, you have studied how these living organisms are classified into different kingdoms. Yes, we have studied 2 kingdom system of classification. We have studied 5 kingdom system of classification, right? So this 5 kingdom system of classification is given by R.H. Whittaker. Hope you remember. So which are those 5 kingdoms? One is Monera, Protista, Mycota or fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So in the last chapter also you have studied the different characters of Monera, Protista, Mycota, Plantae and as well as Animalia, right? So here we have taken the kingdom called as Plant Kingdom. Yes, hope you remember the characters of kingdom Plantae, right? So kingdom Plantae or plant kingdom. So what characters you know about the plant kingdom? So first and foremostly, they are eukaryotic, correct? They are eukaryotic. Also, they may be unicellular or they may be multicellular. They may be multicellular or they may be unicellular. Correct? Yes. What about their nutrition? That is most important. Many of them are showing autotrophic nutrition. Only few plants are heterotrophic. So in that heterotrophic, do you remember we have studied in heterotrophic, they may be holozoic, they may be parasitic or they may be saprophytic. Yes or no? So here holozoic means the plants may be insectivorous or they may be parasitic. Clear? So this is about their nutrition. If you ask an example for insectivorous, I can tell you Venus flower basket. Venus flower basket. Okay, this is an example for insectivorous plant. Coming to parasitic plant, example is Cuscuta. Okay, please remember these examples. And the next character of plant kingdom is that if they are synthesizing their own food. Why? Because I told them they are autotrophic. If they are autotrophic, they have to synthesize their own food. So how they are going to synthesize their own food? By the process called as photosynthesis. For the purpose of photosynthesis to happen, they require chlorophyll pigment. Yes or no? Yes. So chlorophyll pigment may be chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, or they may be xanthophyll pigments or maybe rhodopsin pigments. So different kinds of pigments are there. Okay. So this chlorophyll pigment is going to impart color to the plant body. Okay, so this is the most important character of plants. And next is we have studied about their reproduction. Okay, so how the process of reproduction is going to take place in plants? It may be by vegetative method or it may be by asexual method or it may be by sexual method. Okay, so these are the different kinds of reproduction in which you can see in case of plants. Clear? So these are all the basic characters which we have studied in our last chapter, that is in biological classification. Okay, so now again these plants have been divided into different subgroups. That means based on their characters. So we'll see which are those subgroups. Okay, subgroups of kingdom Plantae. Very first is algae, bryophytes. Next subgroup is pteridophyte. Okay, next gymnosperm, gymnosperms, and finally angiosperms. So these are the different subgroups of plant kingdom. That means we have divided plants into different groups. So based upon their characters. And one thing, while you are writing the subgroups of the plant kingdom, you have to follow the same order. First you have to write algae, then bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperm. Why? Because see, among the plant kingdom, the first formed plants are algae. Okay, so then they evolved into bryophytes, bryophytes evolved into pteridophytes, then into gymnosperms, and finally the highly evolved plants or the angiosperms which we are seeing today. Okay, so for that reason you have to maintain the same order. Clear? In order to classify this plant kingdom into these different subgroups, that is into 5 subgroups, there were many classification process that was done by our taxonomist. Okay, so let's see which are those different kinds of classification that was done in order to arrange these plant kingdom into these 5 subgroups. Okay, we have different kinds of classification. So among that, the very first one is artificial system of classification. Artificial system of classification. Okay, so in the artificial system of classification, the process of classification of plant kingdom was purely based on morphological characters. Okay, it was based on morphological characters. That means those characters which we can see through our naked eyes, which are also called as external characters. Okay, so this artificial system of classification is also called as old, or it is also called as a primitive type of classification, because this was the first system of classification wherein we have classified plants into different groups. Okay, so for that reason it is called as old or primitive type of classification. So please don't forget that artificial system of classification was purely based on morphological characters, and those morphological characters are nothing but the external characters. Clear? And the next system of classification is nothing but natural system of classification. So what do you mean by Natural system of classification. Here the process of classification was done purely based on the possible characters. Okay, it was done based on possible characters. So possible characters means to say what? So okay, these characters may be present or these many characters may be present in a plant. So based on that possibility, they have classified plants into different groups. So that is called as natural system of classification. So in this system of classification, they gave more and more importance only for the floral characters. So what do you mean by floral characters? Nothing but flower characters. So it may be the length of androecium or maybe the length of gynoecium, or it may be number of petals in a flower. Okay, or it may be the type of arrangement of petals in a flower. So all these floral characters were given more importance. Okay, so here we can say that floral characters was given more importance. You should not forget this point. And the next system of classification is called as phylogenetic system of classification. Phylogenetic system of classification. Okay, so this phylogenetic system of classification was based on number of similarities and dissimilarities. We'll write here. So this system of classification was based on number of similarities and dissimilarities. Understood? So based on this, they have classified plants, but here they have given equal importance for all the characters. They have given equal importance for all the characters. But in the natural system of classification, they gave only importance for floral character, whereas in the phylogenetic system of classification, they gave importance for all the characters. Okay, you have to remember this point as well. Clear? So here we have studied three different systems of classification. One is artificial system of classification. Okay, so here morphological characters were taken into the consideration for the purpose of classification, and this is also called as old or primitive method of classification. In the natural system of classification, it was based on the possible characters, wherein they gave importance only for the floral characters. Coming to the phylogenetic system of classification, this type of classification was purely based on the number of similarities and as well as dissimilarities. So if so many number of similar characters were there, they were placed into one group. If so many characters were having dissimilarities, then that were placed into another subgroup. So based on this, phylogenetic system of classification was done, but here all the characters were given equal importance. Okay, so there are still many system of classification we are going to study. The next system of classification is called traditional system of classification. So in the traditional system of classification, okay, so plants were divided into two groups. One is cryptogams, another one is phanerogams. So plants were divided into two groups, cryptogams and phanerogams. So you have to remember this point in case of traditional system of classification, NF. Okay, And next system of classification is numerical taxonomy. It is very easy. Okay, so in the numerical taxonomy, our taxonomists, they assigned a code for each of the characters. So for each character, so it may be the height of a stem, or it may be the venation in a leaf. So for all these characters, they have given a code. Okay, and this code was, or this data was again processed in the system, that is in computer. Okay, so whenever you enter that code, that character is going to be shown in the system. Okay, so that is what is called as numerical taxonomy. It is quite interesting as well, right? So here code was assigned to each characters and it was processed in system. The data was processed in the system. Again, I am going to tell you, here the characters were given with some numerical codes and the same code was stored in the system as well. So when we enter that code, the particular character of a plant is visible in the system. So that is what is called as numerical taxonomy. Okay. So next is cytotaxonomy. So what is the cytotaxonomy? You know about cytology, which is nothing but study of cells, correct? So cytotaxonomy, this system of classification was purely based upon the cell constituents. Okay, so cell constituents means it may be about their cell wall. Okay, it may be about their cytoplasm or the number of chromosomes, or also it may be the structure of chromosomes. Okay, so keeping all this character in mind, so cytotaxonomy was done. That means they are going to study the cell wall of a plant as plant cell, and also they are going to study about the cytoplasm constituent. Okay, they are going to study about the number of chromosomes the plant has, or the structure of chromosomes that plant has. Okay, so that is called as cytotaxonomy. And the last one is called as chemotaxonomy. Okay, so what is this chemotaxonomy? Chemo means it is chemical. Okay, so based upon the chemical constituents, classification was done. Okay, so it is again easy. Chemotaxonomy based upon the chemical constituent. So they are going to check out the different chemicals present in plants. So plants which are having the similar chemicals were placed into one group. Those which are having dissimilar was placed under another group. So this is how the process of classification was done. Okay, so in the system of classification, the next is the traditional system of classification. Here plants were grouped into two groups. One is cryptogams, another one is phanerogams. Okay, next is the numerical taxonomy. So in the numerical taxonomy, different codes were assigned to the characters of plants and this data was stored in the system. And next is the cytotaxonomy, and this system of classification was based upon the cell constituents. It was based on the number of chromosomes, or it may be the structure of chromosomes. Clear? And the last one is chemotaxonomy. Chemotaxonomy, as the name indicates, this system of classification was purely based upon the chemical constituents. Yes, this is about this different types of classification which was done to classify this plant into 5 different groups. Okay, so now Under all those 5 different groups, the very first one is algae. Okay, so throughout this chapter we are going to study about the plants itself, means how plants are classified into subgroups, means it may be like algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and as well as angiosperms, right? So we are going to study the characters of algae, we are going to study the subdivision of algae, we are going to study about the characters of bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and as well as angiosperms. So we are going to study each and every characters of these groups.